Now, the ongoing fuel crisis is taking its toll across the economy, and some advocates say its effects are being very unevenly felt. I spoke to the CEO of Homelessness Australia, Kate Colvin, a short time ago. Kate Colvin, welcome to the program.
Nice to be here.
What does the current fuel and Middle East crisis do to the people that you advocate for, people who are homeless? Are you seeing some consequences already?
Look, what this is going to do is push more people into homelessness. So we do see if people are already homeless, if they're sleeping in their car, moving around like that, that's a huge increase in petrol costs that they're having to bear. But we also can see that this is going to push more people into homelessness. We've already in the past 2 years had a 19% increase in people who are paying more than 50% of their income in rent. They do not have a spare dollar to go into petrol, but if they need that car to get to work, they are going to have to choose between paying for the petrol, paying for the rent. People are going to get behind and come to homeless services.
So far, all of the measures that have been announced, and of course there will be more, but are really kind of very much broadly applied to all people, including of course the cut to the fuel excise. What do you think needs to be done? Does it need to be more targeted, the kind of support the government's looking at?
Look, the impacts are absolutely not evenly spread. Some people are already on the brink and they need that additional support. So we desperately need people to have higher income support so they can, bear the brunt of these increased costs. But we also need to see homeless services have surge funding so that when people are getting behind on their rent, they can actually come to a homelessness service and get the help to help those arrears, to keep them into the house that they're in, because if they become homeless, there's no, spare housing to put them in. So they'll be, on the street. It'll be a devastating situation.
So you've been here in Parliament House, obviously speaking to the people who have power to try and make the case for an intervention of some sort. Is that your main ask, surge funding to try and deal with this acute crisis?
Absolutely. So we need more funding into homeless services so that there's a worker there that can help you. I mean, right now, homelessness services can't see more than 100,000 people who need help every year. So if someone came to a homeless service, they might not even be able to get in front of a worker. So that's why it's so important. And, the policy is moving fast. We've seen the fuel excise announcement made, but we do need this targeted support for the people that are doing it the toughest.
And what are the people on the front line telling you? You must be getting daily reports of the sorts of issues that they're facing.
So services are facing increased costs. So if you're delivering outreach services in a regional area, those cars are moving around, the costs have massively increased and services don't have the increased funding to cover those costs. We're also seeing that services are having increased numbers of people come in with arrears. So, and that's particularly the case in areas where people have the highest fuel costs, so in regional areas. And another issue is in remote areas, people rely on petrol just to be able to get access to food, and the cost, the distances they have to travel are enormous. Food is even more expensive in those locations. Petrol is even more expensive. So, the people doing absolutely the toughest are living in those remote areas, and a specific additional payment to them to help people just keep food on the table, keep their rent, get to the services that they need using the car.
Is it your understanding from the conversations you've had that the government is considering some of these things?
Look, no, it's not my understanding at this stage. So I think this is why we're sort of, really making the call public to say this is a really urgent priority. We need support to go not just to everyone evenly, because not everyone is evenly affected. We need people who are going to be on the brink, not able to put food on the table, not able to pay their rent, to be getting additional support at this time, like we did when we had the previous massive crisis around COVID. So that saw those additional income support payments. It saw additional payments to community services to respond and to be able to help people. And I think we're entering that territory and we need to be having that conversation.
The other sort of adjacent issue is, of course, the preparation for the budget. There are a lot of balloons being floated about tax reform on housing taxes, negative gearing, capital gains tax, things that you have been actually campaigning for a long time to try and shift. If the government does go there, and we don't know they will, but they certainly have not ruled it out, and they are able to bring in more revenue as a result, because that's the consequence, how do you think they should be dealing with that revenue?
So we've got this short-term problem, and we do need the surge funding to just be able to respond to people. But those tax reform measures also have the capacity to do deeper reform. So they need to be complemented with actually fixing the housing crisis. That means getting the social housing on the ground that is desperately needed. It's the lack of social housing that's really smashing homelessness services, both with increased demand and with the inability to get people housed once they are homeless. So I really do think that coupling the capital gains tax discount change, if that was to happen, with increased investment in social housing, would deliver the best overall impact on the housing crisis.
This is a pretty unprecedented, we use that a lot, but crisis. We've of course had the GFC, we've had COVID, and they're the times the Prime Minister has previously addressed the nation. Tonight, the Prime Minister will address the nation as well. Just give me a sense of how people who are very disadvantaged in our community are responding to this crisis, and how important it is to actually deal with this particular group, because, as I say, at this stage, all of the changes are very generalised.
Look, I think people are probably feeling a lot of despair and probably also anger to see that, you know, they're at the point where they just can't get food on the table, and, you know, fuel excise is being handed out, and wealthy households will get the benefit of that, who don't really need it. So I think people will be expecting the Prime Minister to be responding to their concerns, their need to feed their family, to keep their housing over their head, to manage the everyday costs that are just becoming unbearable. So I think that's what people will be expecting to hear from the Prime Minister.
Kate, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.